inside. And before we lock in our back, okay, so I took my axle back down off of our jig. This is our jig. If you missed the previous video, this is where the axle sits at. It just bolts on, so it's not, or clamps on, so it's not hard to take off. Anyway, we need to make sure our body's not attached anywhere behind the B pillar at all, so it's floating. So our last attachment points are right here at the B pillar, and then from the B pillar back, it's not attached. So we need to make sure the body's not tweaked or left to right, so we got to find center. So we come in here on the package tray, and I measured multiple points. I'll show you a couple of examples. Measured from this piece of metal, found center, which is marked behind here on the string line. And then I checked from this screw hole in the window. This screw hole is a little bit off. I checked from my weld to the center line. It was a little bit more off, but then I checked butting up to this metal up here inside the window frame to this metal window frame, and it was back on point. I went from this inner gutter structure right here. We cut these symmetrical early in the build. We made sure they were 100% symmetrical actually. So I butted to that and went to there, that to there, and they're dead on. So dead on a couple points that matter. You know, the package tray should be a machined piece. It's pretty close to center, so the center of the package tray should be a good point. Then we come down here on the frame and use our piece of 90-degree corner iron, which if you recall, when we built the frame structure very early, we were very, very precise about the flush mount, you know, so that we could measure later down the road and have dead on center. We wanted it very flush on the outside, and then we marked center on here, center line on here, more important, center line on there, and then hung our plumb bob. So that's dead on. That is, let's see here, that's dead on. That black line in there is dead on with that. So the body is, at the moment, it is 100% centered off of the packaging tray. And there's really nothing else I can go on unless I wanted to extend the frame rail lines down to the floor, pop a string line, go all the way out back, and then drop a plumb blob off the center of the trunk line and check that. But we're good. I think we're totally good. All right, a little cramped up in here to record, but we've got our straight line established down the frame rail with this clamp to our upper support, and it's touching the main frame rail, so that keeps our down bar right here in perfect line with the frame rail when it comes down. And then of course 90-degree clamps, 90-degree magnets, they're your friend. They get everything nice and square for you, especially when you're working with square tubing. Now, the reason why we're coming so far off of this, we sort of guessed at this one, kept this a little long, and I was going to cut it back wherever I needed it at. We got an airbag that's going to go back here. So there's going to be a mount that comes off of here that the bag is, it goes under the bottom, that the bag is going to sit on between here. I lucked up and we bought a couple different mounts. This is one of the ones, the uppers that we bought, and I think this one's going to be perfect. So you can either run it like this, or you could flip it, run it like this if you need a little bit of down travel. We don't need no freaking down travel at all. We need this mount as high as possible so that we can have room, because I'm about to, next is going to be, or one of the next things is going to be to temporarily, we don't have the pinion set. We don't care about the pinion. Somebody asked that in a previous video too. We don't care about the pinion angle until we are ready to weld brackets to the axle. So the axle is just sitting in here pretty close to 0 pinion angle, just so we can use these tubes as reference. So when we put the airbag mounts on here, they're just going to be tacked on to just get them set right, and then they will be knocked back off later, because you cannot weld brackets to here until pinion angle is set. Pinion angle can't be set until we're at ride height. We're building at bagged height. So until we can actually get this thing where the axle will sit on the ground, where we have 2 back rims, 2 tires mounted up, the axle's done, everything done for this thing. When this thing can sit on the ground with 2 tires on it, and we can lift this frame up with jacks to simulate ride height, at that point, then we can final set and figure out a bracket. So it's going to be a while before we do final bracket fitment. But what we can do is, we do know that this is a circle, the axle tube's a circle, so the bag mount, the lower mount, is going to stay the same distance off the tube no matter what the pinion angle is, because it's just going to rotate around this. So once we tack on that lower bracket here in a minute, we will then be able to find forward and backwards of center line of this bracket and clean some paint off, and we will then be able to weld this bracket in place up here. And we'll probably just tack it pretty good until the very last minute, just in case any changes are made, but I don't think we're going to need to be like that. But that's not what we're chasing right now, but I did want to explain that real fast in case anybody is wondering, why in the world is this thing so far back? Basically, when you open the trunk, we didn't want to see the bags or anything like that. And it doesn't allow us a lot of trunk space at all. Like it's eating up, these tires and the bags are going to eat up a ton of trunk space. Compressors and everything are going to have to be up on here. Basically, this is going to be a shelf. So from about this 2x4 to here, there would be a shelf across the whole entire distance of the trunk. And I'm going to try to put everything up here on top of this shelf that I can, so that we've, you know, got a nice clean floor back here. But there's definitely not going to be a lot of space. And I'll show you some other little tricks that we're going to do when we get back to this trunk space to be able to have a little bit of room. But that's our down bars for right now. So now, I think if I have it right, we should be this bottom. Let's see here, I hope I didn't mess up. I bet I did mess up. No, I shouldn't mess up. This should be the same height as, I think, this piece right here. Let me double check my measurements, and then we will be measuring this distance and cutting that piece, and then we will start cutting out some backstrap. All right, so this is where we're about to go in a slow crawl, and I ain't gonna be able to entertain y'all too much. This is where we run into kind of the second most biggest thing that I was putting off. The rockers were definitely big on, I didn't know how I was gonna do it, but at least they were straight runs up there and they're not like this. So there's a lot of damage up in here, okay? A lot of rot. Somebody has fiberglass repaired at some point, or fiberglass rigged it at some point and tried to patch it up. So we have to build basically this whole structure right here before we can even get to where we're ready to connect our floors, sort of. Because I can't remove the floor. So as soon as I put this bar as soon as I run this bar across here, now I'm gonna be working around a bar, which I don't want to do. So might go ahead and cut them just so I can maybe tack them if I need them, but I've got to focus on this. So instead of rambling through this on the camera and trying to stumble and figure this out, I'm just gonna figure this out privately, and I will let you know what happens, and I will show you how I do it, because I think this is gonna entail quite a bit. I've left this here so I know where the tub is, the old inner tub, which I guess does not really even matter. Now in theory, maybe I should go ahead and cut that out. Yeah, actually, because that's too far in. I mean, I guess we could keep it though, and then just box it over. I just didn't want to cut it out until I absolutely know that that's what I want to do, because I technically need to still connect all this back together. And here, whew, this is gonna put a dampen on things, and we got to rebuild all of this structure right here. And, you know, it's gonna be a lot, so let me figure this one out.